On today's episode, I'm joined by Tyler Smith, the CEO and founder of SkySlope, a true disruptor in PropTech. Tyler has built one of the fastest growing transaction management platforms in the industry.
I just had turned 39, my wife having our first child. I took this biological age test. It said I was 47, and a lot of things happened. I said, okay, I'm gonna take advantage of the Fidelity program. At that time, I have a physician, I have a human biologist, and I have the Mayo Clinic. So I took a step back. I started just to look at the industry in a whole. It's like, man, nothing's really digital. My SkySlope days of real estate, like, how is it I'm paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for these professionals, but we're at a great time where we're in this world of these great LLMs that can really help you scale this.
Streamlining how agents, brokers, and clients experience real estate. He's not just building software, he's reshaping an entire industry.
Give me the prediction as to what's going to happen in this space.
I think the future is Leo's going to wake up. It's going to say, welcome to Monday, Leo. Yesterday, you didn't eat too well. That's going to happen in health. And it's going to tell you what to eat, what your exercise should be. I think that that's the level of personalization you're going to see in the future and not too far from it.
Bringing passion and curiosity into everything he does. This is Tyler Smith.
Tyler, super excited to do this podcast. You're one of my friends that I've known a very long time and someone I've got to come up with, which is a super cool shared experience. You're the one who convinced me that I could start a software company.
And you did it.
Without being technical. Yes, and I did it. So, the level of friendship we have is special because it's someone who's pushed you your whole life. And I remember pushing you when I met you and you thought you were a big deal. And sorry for that.
Until I met you.
It's Sacramento. No, like I sell twice as many homes as you. So get to my level. So the type of friends that have always pushed you and they're few and far between. So first of all, I want to acknowledge it and thank you for the friendship we've enjoyed. But we met at a 30 under 30 conference.
That's right. In Chicago.
So you've done so much more than that, but let's just start there.
Yeah.
Again, I think most people probably forget or don't know that you started in the real estate and then just see you're just a software executive and now you're going to be a health tech executive. So just start from wherever the origin story is and then we can jump into the really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I got into real estate at a very young age. They gave a loan to a 19-year-old, $330,000, which is crazy to think about now. And if you can fog a mirror, you can get a loan. And so I bought a house. My realtor was not great. My number one goal was like, how do I move out of my parents' house and find chicks, right? I got 19, that's all I cared about. And so I moved out, but my experience for the real estate side was horrible. And so I was like, look, if this realtor can make this much money, I can do a better job. I'm going to be a realtor. And so I got into real estate. I sucked my first year. I did nothing other than one sell, but $18,000 was that sell. And I was like a millionaire at 19. Who has that much money? All my friends were at college. And then the market crashed, as we know. And so I saw a really great opportunity to help these banks and these institutions offload large sets of assets in a distressed market so they could have better earnings on Wall Street. And so I managed everything for them, which you didn't get paid until you actually sold the home. So you did a lot of free work up front. And that was really my career in real estate. That's where I started to learn about homes and scalability and hiring a team and my first staff member, my first corporation. I was always an independent contractor, and I was doing this at the age of 21, 22, 23. So while all my friends were out partying, literally I was working 6-7 days a week, 15-hour days. And so I ran that pretty hard. That's where we met. We were both 30 under 30 in Chicago, which is, as a realtor and young, it's always fun to do that. And then you get to meet other people. And so for me, I was in Sacramento, California, in my bubble, representing a lot of different homes in the California area. And I got to meet you. And it was pretty cool because we both this is kind of cool, but let's talk shop. What ideas are you doing? What am I doing? And we had tactical things we can give each other. I think back then it was more high level, here's how I'm running my business. And we were like, look, we're in the worst market. We were doing the most homes sales. Let's exchange notes. And it wasn't about competition. It was about just giving back to each other. So I think that was just a really great time for both of us. From there, I just saw something really big shifting a couple of years later, which was this thing called the cloud. Everyone was wondering what the cloud was. What does this mean? Can I see it? I remember Mark Benioff of Salesforce wrote a book, Behind the Cloud. I was like, look, there's something coming where we can take something happening offline with all of this paperwork and files, and we can bring it online. And so I built something small for myself for my team to use, which I thought was cool. It's like, hey, Leo, I got something I'm using for myself. And you're like, yeah, dude, that's great. Like I got a team that manage that. And so no one was really thinking about this whole concept, which is laughable now, which is paperless. I wrote a book on going paperless, which is even more laughable because we don't even think about that anymore.
Well, I remember when I called you and you told me you were starting this company. I said, who do you compete with? Because I always like context. And you'll never forget, you go, paper. I'm competing with paper. And I never forgot that.
Because it literally was the truth. Like our goal was, look, brokers have to hold these files for a certain amount of years, depending on what state they're in. The realtor has to hold the file. And for me, and you know this, doing high volume with REOs, you had a file, your sister had a file, your TC had a file. It's like everyone had files. So we were storing way more than even our brokerage was. And so I was like, look, this is not the way to do business. There's got to be a better way to manage this all like one online kind of cloud, one file. And so I built something on SharePoint myself. It was horrible. We broke it. I found some engineers to call it version 1, which was called Smith Premier Properties Portal Inc.com, the longest, ugliest domain name in the world. I remember calling my mom, I got a domain. I got my first domain. It has our name in it. And it's like the longest, ugliest domain in the world. But it worked, right? It worked for me really well. And I started to get a lot of people reaching out saying, hey, what do you use to manage all these files? And I was like, oh, I use, Smith Premier Properties Portal Inc.com, the longest name, whatever. But I said, I think there's something here. And so we started to talk to some brokers and realtors. And there's this broker in Arizona that had about 1,000 agents. And they're like, we were going to build this. We want exactly what you're using. Can you make it available? Like, I think, I don't know technology. And so we made it available and I said, what would you pay for this? He's like $3,000 a month. And I was thinking so small. It's like $3,000 a month? That's crazy. If I can get like 6 of these guys to pay me, that can pay for some of my admin stuff. Like I was not thinking about this as a B2B SaaS. I didn't even know what SaaS was, like type of business. And obviously it expanded well beyond that. But that was kind of the light bulb of like, man, people are willing to pay for this. It's solving a real need. And I think that's the hardest thing to think about product market fit, right? How do you make sure someone actually wants the product that you've built and that they're willing to pay you for it? And so as we got a lot of those different brokerages on early days, they really helped shape the product. We were very, very much obsessed over the customer and understanding what they needed because I knew what I needed, but like every brokerage, as we know, is ran very differently. And so it's so funny. I still have the email where it's like, we got to get a name. We can't have my name in this anymore. And I was like so busy. I was like, let's just throw some names out there. We love the clouds. It's like the sky. Look at those. And like, I love going snowboarding, like the slopes. And so like, there is no meaning behind it. People are like, I love the name. Where'd it come from? Like, there's literally, I'll show you the email. It's like, here are the 5. I'm like, just let's pick that one. It works. And so I think that's another great, interesting lesson. It's like people get so fascinated with the name of their company. And I think there's value there and there's brand awareness, no doubt. I'm not going to disagree.
There's probably more names that have an origin story like yours than the ones that were like thoughtfully considered, right? Like Remind was the shortest URL I could afford over a weekend before I had to pitch. It was $5,500 and I was like, I wanted to kind of have a story I can tell.
Yeah.
So it's RE, real estate mining.
Yeah.
We mine data.
Yeah.
And it was the only one I could afford. And if you ask Glenn Sanford, EXP Realty was the shortest URL he could buy.
Isn't that crazy?
EXP is the prefix to a lot of cool words.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know. Isn't that funny? And we're obsessed with this. So we think I got to have the perfect color or the perfect, and by the way, those things matter, no doubt. We both know brand matters. But when you're starting out, product market fit matters. It's the only thing that matters. You can always change your name. Product market fit is so important. So yeah, that I did that. We built that up quite a bit, well over 250 employees. We never raised outside capital. I bootstrapped it from day one.
Which, by the way, I can't overemphasize enough because I did the opposite. I raised close to $50 million. And I think the most interesting stories I've heard are the ones that are fully bootstrapped, like XP.
Yeah. Now, I mean, look, I think there's pros and cons to both. I never thought in my head, like, how can I use this money to actually put it to work for more distribution? And I never figured that part out. And so it was always hard for me and a challenge to think like, I'm going to take on money, dilute myself, and not know what to do with it. Like, I don't want to just spend money to grow. And there was other competitors out there that did, and that worked for them, but that wasn't in my plans. my plan was like, look, I want to build the best product. I'm a true product-led CEO. I'm a real specialist in this space. I understand how to speak what I call like realtor and broker, and I know compliance. And so I just kind of went heads down and built that, and we built it up to a pretty large business. SkySlope manages 2/3 of all real estate transactions in North America. It has 900,000 realtors that use that software. Well over billions of documents. It started out as just a kind of a very, very elevated Dropbox for realtors to, tying in with compliance and a lot of automation and digital signature. And now we do financials and wiring and transfer. And it's expanded quite a bit. And I think in 2017, we got a lot of folks that had inbound interest, and that was kind of the first bout of, should I take some chips off the table? I got all of my net worth in this business, and it's doing really well. Is there a way to de-risk? And so we were thinking about taking a minority deal with some private equity folks, and we got an LOI, a term sheet, and we took that to our banker, who we just had a really great relationship with. This gentleman was always open and sharing what's happening in the market. And he said, look, I think you should talk to other folks. And we did, and we ended up selling to Fidelity, which is a publicly traded company in our space. And so that was a fun time, because you just got to think through, man, here I was a realtor at 19 selling homes, found this niche of software, not knowing software, built it up, ran a really good, well-ran organization. Now you have someone who wants to pay you a lot of money for it. And so it's another confirmation of like great product market fit, which is one, but then, hey, you've got to execute, right? You got to have the right people doing the right things, which that's hard for I think a lot of, and you can probably relate, a lot of entrepreneurs, because they're solo and they can do it the best, and we're the best. Why would I ever have somebody else do that? I can do it better. And you have to realize, like, teams are not all built on just A players. That'd be great, but you need a lot of other folks that can help you get things done as well. And if they can do it 80% of how you did, which sometimes they do it even better, right? But 80% of how you operate, you only have enough time in the day. And so I think that's a big lesson I see a lot of people struggle with, is delegating to grow and expand. And there's psychological issues with that. Is success good? Do I want to get that big? And then there's also control issues with that. I can't let go of this because this person's not going to do it like I do it. And that's where you have to coach, right? And I think that's a really hard skill set to learn when you're like a solo type of entrepreneur or solo independent contractor in that case, because you have to really let go of things, but also do a lot of work on coaching, knowing that they're going to be able to run on their own galaxy. And obviously how big your organization is, you get that very, very well. Yeah.
So Tyler, you went Bootstrap to takeout from a public company.
Yeah.
And that's rare air. I think that's what most entrepreneurs hope for.
Yeah.
Right. Statistically speaking, most self-employed people don't get past $1 million in revenue and kind of stay in that self-employed small business, the SMB category, which by the way is a super important category because it's like what really drives the U.S. economy. But you are in that very, very rarefied. Can you talk about how that went? And, and I know there's an upfront transaction and then a back-end transaction.
Yeah. So for our process, we had an LOI and our banker said, hold on that. Here's our strategy. We're going to go out and pitch to some folks. We're going to hand select them. And so we went from that one LOI to 11 IOIs. Those are indications of intent. So they're not true LOIs. They're saying like, we want to know more. We're interested. We like the SIM that was sent. So out of those 11, they had a mixture of both private equity and some strategics. Strategics are larger corporations in this case. And so we said, yeah, let's talk about this, but we didn't want to sell the majority. We wanted to sell the minority. So what happened was we had 3 true LOIs out of those 11 IOIs that came through, letter of intents. We met with all 3 of those companies, flew out and met with them multiple times, and we ended up deciding on Fidelity. The reason why was, it was a majority deal, not ideal for what we wanted at that time, but they gave us a lot of really great terms that were really important for us. And they gave us a great price. And by the way, we had a price much higher. So we sold for north of 80 million was our the value of our company, our enterprise value that they purchased for. But we had offers higher with a lot of different terms. The reason why Fidelity made sense for us is, one, obviously mission aligned, really great organization. Like the team over there works really hard and they do really great things and they want to win. But the second was they put these terms in that said like, look, if you ever feel that we are not living up to the growth that we talked about, look, you can call your puts at any time. We have a guaranteed multiple. And so guess what? You have all of the hunger to grow the company because you know what the multiple is going to be. And if you feel like we are telling you to move your organization to, Vegas and, cut 30% of your staff, you can walk away knowing you have some protection. And so the way that was done, I think was really unique. A lot of my friends like, look, no one gets that. We have a lot of offers and I think there's a lot of trust. And I think we've been good partners both sides. The second thing was we had 2 put options in front of us within a 5-year. So in 5 years, they want to raise their hand and say, look, we want to buy your equity. That was something that they wanted. They wanted the option to do that. So what I was able to do is I was able to grow the business as much as I can. I had a really large line of credit. So now I can use cash to grow it, right? So if I can use $10 million to grow the organization to a very much larger number, all that does is come off the top when you pay out proceeds. So it made a lot of sense to take that money and grow it. It wasn't my money, which was great. I got to use that capital to grow smartly. Obviously, I need their approval, and then they were very open to it because they saw the ROI. And so when I got to call my first puts, the back end was a lot better than the front end. And I think that just goes to finding the right team to help you think about these deals, because these deals are complex. The details are really, really important. And you have to have alignment with these. And I've heard a lot of bad stories. I think I got a lot of luck, but I also chose the right partner. I can easily see with the other folks that we were going to consider. I already know other folks who they were acquired by, and look, it wasn't really great. And so I think great partners, it's really important, making sure the terms work on both ends, making sure there's a level of understanding, like I'm not confused. I know the relationship I have with them. I'm a minority owner and they are a majority owner. It's very clear. Now, I have certain voting powers, but our goal is how do we make sure we're aligned and hit the numbers that we say we're going to hit. And so I think there's a level of respect there, but that's kind of how the deal was structured for me.
So from the outside, I watched that once you were associated with this much bigger entity, you now had access to resources, business-wise, growth-wise. But one of the things that always stood out to me was you were able to have access to all these executive health benefits.
Yeah.
And I think that put you on this path that's taking you in this new journey. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So what's really great is Fidelity puts their executives through something called the Mayo Clinic. The Mayo Clinic has an executive program. It's quite expensive. You get to go out to one of their facilities. You get a lot of different scans. You get to go through and do extensive blood work. You have to kind of like, you walk like department to department, and it's like your annual physical, but times 10, right? Like nobody really goes to an annual physical. It's very, how are you doing? Are you drinking? Any problems you have? It's very basic. This is like full in-depth testing. So they offer this to their executives, which is really great. And I took advantage of that, which was really, really, and some things happened during that. And so for example, I took this test, a biological age test, not with the Fidelity, with some of my friends. I'm like, guys, I'm going to crush this thing. Like I just had turned 39. My wife and I were having our first child. I'm like, guys, it's going to say I'm 12. Put a diaper on me. Like I work out, success is telling me I'm doing good. I think in my head, I have the sleeper gene where I don't need many hours to sleep and I can operate at a high level because I was doing that. The success of what I had was telling me, don't change anything. Everything you're doing is right. How I worked out was like, look, I sweat really hard. I can go get 5 stacks of pancakes and unlimited mimosas on a Saturday. And so these are all things that people can probably relate to. Like it's just what we tell ourselves. And so I took this biological age test. It said I was 47 and a lot of things happened. One, my dad died from a heart attack at 47. So I can remember exactly where I was. I was in real estate and I was like, wow. And so that you kind of go back into that exactly where you were when that hits. The second thing was I'm having a child I'm not having a child. My wife is having a child and I'm at an older age than most. Not older. So 39, you start to think about offspring a little bit different. When my daughter's having her sweet 16, how old am I? When the earliest she'll have a kid is here. How old am I going to be as a grandpa? You just start to think about life differently. And by the way, you always told me, dude, get married, have a kid. What are you doing? Come on, man. You're missing out. You're missing out on this, dude. Like, look at this. You'd send me photos. You still send me photos. I was like, dude, now I get it. I now finally get it. Took me a while, but so I started to think about life a little bit differently because of that. And so I do what I always did. I said, okay, I'm going to take advantage of the Fidelity program, Mayo Clinic, all in. I'm going to hire some of the best physicians out there. And so I hired really great concierge doctors, celebrity doctors that are well over 6 figures to use. And a lot of things happened. They made some suggestions on, hey, changing food. And so I then got a chef. I got a board certified nutritionist. I got a brand new trainer. And so here I am, Tyler, call it, at that time, 39. I got rid of my trainer, got a new trainer. I now have a chef. I have a nutritionist that's helping me think through food and different things that are important and how to automate it because we're busy. It's like, how do I automate this? I have a physician, I have a human biologist, and I have the Mayo Clinic. I'm dialed. And I learned a lot through that process. One is I got really good care, which is great. But the second thing was a lot of friends and family members wanted to take advantage of this. Dude, I want to get on this thing that you're on. What are you doing? Like, man, what supplements are you taking? And I think we all know this is once you start to get into like help a little bit more, you start talking about health, your friends want to talk about health. It's like everyone wants to kind of join in. And then they see improvements, which I improved physically, but even cognitively, I was sharp. They're like, hey, get us an introduction to your people. And so that there was a problem, which is like, can I even get an introduction? Number one, it's not accessible. And even if I could, are you going to pay the money? I mean, this is just letting you know, this is what it cost. And so that was the other problem. And then when I took a step back, I started just to look at the industry in a whole. It's like, man, nothing's really digital. Like I'm still getting very nice PDFs, which to me is like mind blowing. I'm like, I'm reliving my SkySlope days of real estate. Like, how is it I'm paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for these professionals that are really good, by the way, but I'm doing Zoom and I'm looking at, a LabCorp, PDF.
I was one of the friends who bugged you, and I got a PDF on a Zoom, and I never did anything with it because I was like, what do I do with this PDF?
And the thing is, like, you look at it, they talk to you about it, but like it goes in one ear out the other. Like there's no accountability. It reminded me of an annual physical. You go to your doctor once a year. That's even if you go. They ask you some questions. They tell you what to do, and you leave, and you don't do anything, right? Unless you have a really big scare. And so I started to make a lot of investments in the space. I was fascinated with it. It's like, man, this is like a lot of people are going to be talking about health. That's going to be a really big thing that people are going after. How do people want to live to their greatest, health? And so I made probably about 13 different investments, from functional medicine companies to sequencing of the genome sequencing companies to 503A pharmacies to functional medicine businesses, like, all of these different businesses. And a lot of those will do and have been doing really well. But at the end of the day, I wanted all of my team at this table right here. I wanted my doctor here, my physician, I wanted my nutritionist, my trainer. I wanted everyone to look at all of my data and go, what should I do? And they were all great, but they were working in silos. Like my trainer didn't know what type of functional training I should be doing based on science, right? They had their idea and what they've been doing for the last 10, 15 years of training. My nutritionist knew great foods that were generally healthy, but not how they impacted certain biomarkers. And maybe I had the wrong team, but I don't think so. These are really, really competent people, but they weren't communicating. And I get it. That's just, you don't see that kind of whole approach. And so that got me maybe thinking, okay, what's the state of the America, rich country, sick people. We spend $4.5 trillion a year. People are still dying early. It's just backwards. Like doctors don't and aren't compensated to, work on people who are doing well. They are on people who are sick. And then when you really think about the era we're in, it's like humans can't scale. It's just too hard. There's new studies every day coming out. Don't drink out of a plastic bottle, the microplastics. The glass bottles have more microplastics than the plastic bottles. Just like every day is something new. So there's a lot of confusion and you can't scale it. And then technology is where we're at is like, we're at a really great time. You couldn't do this 3 or 4 years ago, but we're at a great time where we're in this world of these great LLMs that can really help you scale this. And so I looked at everything on the market and I said, look, there's just got to be a way to bring something that's all digital in your pocket, how we consume data today, which is on our phone, on our device, and it's really, really affordable for people. And for me, it was like, I want to do something very different. I want to build a mission-driven business. SkySlope was great. I felt really good hugging trees, saying I saved trees. But really, it was really to serve the real estate community, and it did really well. But this is really mission-driven for me. And that's what we're bringing to market. And so we're bringing a doctor in your pocket. It's called 100 Health or 100.com. And we made it really affordable. It's $499 a year, which is really less than $1.37 a day. It's as affordable as we can make it. We're making it accessible to everyone. So within the United States, we'll go to EU next year. And then it's really easy to understand your health. We've made it so you can understand it, which I think this is the biggest confusion is a lot of times you talk to a specialist, a physician, a doctor, and they don't have enough time to really explain everything to you, right? And the average time that a physician sees a patient is under 9 minutes now. It's like, how can you even give me any type of understanding of what I'm trying to understand with my body? And that's on a small subset of biomarkers. We do a lot of things very differently than most. And so that's what we brought to market.
You've gone 0 to 1 in a very scaled way, right? 2/3 of North American transactions. I don't want anyone listening who's not in the real estate industry to understand how massive that is. Right? That is like winner take all. That normally doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Now you're going into a massively large market.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that's going to come out of this technology shift that we're experiencing with AI and large language models is this super personalized experience.
Yeah.
Right. Talk to me about that, because as someone who is a borderline hypochondriac, and I've always been curious about this, right? Like, I think I was getting physicals before you were getting physicals.
Yeah.
It still felt, even though I was going to specialists, like, okay, take 2 of these in the morning and call.
Yeah. So I broke this down with first principles of how I would think about the problem and solving this. And I think the biggest problem is, how can you say you're personalized if you don't have the full picture of the person? So the very first thing we do is when you download our app, or native mobile, iPhone and Android, you download our app after you pay $4.99 and take a photo of your ID. What we do is we pull into over 650 EMRs. An EMR is electronic medical record. So you've gone to Kaiser or Stanford or Sutter or Blue Cross. When you go to those organizations, you have all of your reports, any clinical notes, any type of scan, surgery, prescription. So what we do is we go, okay, who was Leo? We want the history of Leo. On average, we're seeing over 100 plus medical records per patient right now. So we go, okay, who is Leo? And now what we do is we call it internally the Ronald Reagan. We trust but verify. Leo, do you still have this knee problem? Hey, Leo, do you still take this medication? We need to understand if your knee has issues. We can't tell you to jump rope, right? And so this is our very first thing we do is we want to understand the history of Leo, and we want to know the Leo today, the patient of Leo today. From there, what we do is we do a very comprehensive blood analysis on your blood work, from your kidneys to your liver to your heart to your inflammation. We look at 100 plus biomarkers across all of your organs. And so now we know who Leo was and the current Leo, but now we have a baseline of today, which is really important. And that's really hard to get from your current physician. You go to your physician and say, hey, here's what Hunter does. I want you to order these labs for me. I have insurance. Won't happen. They can't do it. It's just... The system's not meant to do that. And so we do this twice a year. You get 2 comprehensive blood panels twice a year with us. And then what we do is we do what everyone doesn't, which I don't understand, is how can you give personalized care when you don't understand a lot of the things that the patient does? For example, we tie into all of your wearables. So you're wearing an Oura Ring. I have a Garmin I'm testing out right now. I usually have the Apple Watch, but we tie into over 45 wearables. So for someone like my mom, who's 71, who has no wearables, we're going to get her steps, which, believe it or not, is very, very important for us to understand, is she moving or not, right? As you get older, you want to make sure you're moving and doing things. For someone like me, you're going to get my HRV, you're going to get my resting heart rate, you're going to get my sleep, you're going to get my deep sleep, you're going to get the types of exercises, how long the exercises. You could have a continuous glucose monitor, all of those things we tie into. And so now think about this. Imagine having all of that data on a patient to be able to really give them personalized, interventions. And so 1, we give you those results back. But 2, we don't just give them back to you, we tell you what to do with those. And so we give you a 100-day protocol. We worked with this gal who wrote a book on habits and science, and she helped us establish this 100-day protocol. And it's something that people can digest, someone can hold on to. A whole year is a little bit too long. You can drift really easily. A couple week sprints is just too much for people. And so we come up with this 100-day protocol, and we broke it down into 3 sections. The first is supplements. What are the supplements you should take? What are the supplements you shouldn't take? The science behind it. Everything we do is evidence-based. I think this is the real, to me, utility of our company is we built our own evidence repository. So we're not using some general LLM and general knowledge. We're actually built our own evidence repository. And so we're going to tell you, these are the supplements to take. Here's the reasoning why. Here's the dose why. And here's what you should actually see by taking these. And then what we do is we go into the food. Here are the areas we're going to target for this first 100 days. So your liver and enzymes, or your LDL. And so we're going to talk about the different areas we're going to target, and we're going to tell you foods you need to be thinking about, foods to eat, foods to avoid, types of meals. And the last is obviously really important, which is the movement, what type of exercising you should do. And so we break that down for you. We give you a really easy way to follow this protocol. And then what we do is we retest, right? We find that our users are retesting no sooner than 100 days and no later than 200 days. And so when you really go through that process, I mean, we've had over, a couple thousand people now go through it. It's been pretty revolutionary. There's a lot of things they've discovered. There's a lot of things they're learning. We have a lot of ways to educate, because it's like really, really hard to understand all of that. It's like, what we don't want is you do this, you read it, and then you go off on your day. So we have a lot of different things on how to build habits for people. And we're seeing a huge, huge engagement with just people coming back and learning more about themselves every single day. But that's the product from kind of start to finish today, what we built that's now live.
Where do you see it going? Right. First version of Tyler Smith Properties repository, long URL to, SkySlope managing complex compliance contractions.
Yeah. So when you really think about this, we've made this really affordable because we want this to be in millions and millions of people. This is really mission driven, and the service and the level of care I was able to get because I could afford it, I believe is just not fair. It's just the system's completely broken. And so I believe that $4.99 annual, it only goes down. And I think this becomes just a free product at some point. And there's a lot of ways to get there, but imagine everyone having, just think about this. Go out right now. Most people are taking their blood work. They're uploading it to a LLM, Anthropic, OpenAI.
If they're even getting the Grok.
Yeah, if they're even getting it. But they're uploading it and asking it questions. And that's good, but it doesn't have all the context on you, right? So I think that's a problem. I think everyone's going to grab 100, ask, hey, I just watched the Leo Pareja video. He takes this really cool supplement, a CEO, he's able to operate with very little sleep, should I take it? And now we can give you a reason of why you should or shouldn't, why you would be a good or not a great candidate for it, all based on evidence. Or you can call for my mom who doesn't want to chat. She can call and talk and go, hey, this is what's happening with me. Is this something I need to go into the hospital for? Would you recommend this? And so we don't think we're replacing the doctor. We think, just like when you think about your insurance for your car, you've got to do maintenance on your car. Got to get windshield wipers, fluid, brakes, tires. You pay for that out of pocket. And then if something happens, what do? You now take advantage of your insurance to go into the hospital. That's how we see it, is we'll be the first line of care. And we don't even like to call people patients, because hopefully you never have to become a patient, right? You can learn and understand and see changes based on habits that hundreds really suggesting in their interventions. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be, it's a very large market. Two, a lot of people don't even understand what blood work or biomarkers are. I think you're going to see this radical change moving forward, with people wanting to take back control of their health, because we are living in, I would argue, the greatest time to be alive.
When I think medicine has always been treated as you're treating the symptom instead of figuring out what's wrong, right? I always have been curious about, why is that happening? And that's why I've spent a lot of money with it. That's why I'm excited to be in your beta and see where this goes. But what is a closing thought as to what you think will happen in that space over the next couple? Like you were able to identify, again, we're laughing about it now, of fighting paper.
Yeah.
But I remember when you would run around the hallways of conferences telling, I'm going to get you off paper, and people looking at you like you were crazy. Give me the prediction as to what's going to happen in this space you're now entering.
There's a lot that's going to happen, and I think it's only going faster. I'll break it down this way. 5 years ago, it would have been really hard to do this, because we had to build out a way for you to schedule on a mobile app someone to come to your house and take your blood. That's a service-based business. Really tough, right?
By the way, when you guys did it for me last month, I was doing a webinar to 50 agents as someone was taking my blood.
That's what I'm saying. But think about 3-4 years ago, hard. Someone would have to call manually. We do that with technology. Or you can go into one of our 5,000 labs, and they have the requisition form from the doctor waiting for you. They know the blood work. They know exactly the vials they need to do. It's all set up. So that's going in and getting blood work. And that's really easy to do in our app, but it's still manual. Think about the future. I think you're going to be able to eventually, which everyone goes crazy, it's eventually use a prick of blood. I do believe that's coming. We're already seeing it. It's obviously limited on how many biomarkers, but it's growing, right? So that's number two. I think eventually what you'll do is you'll be able to literally hold your phone up, and we're already seeing this technology where you can see in real-time blood pressure and inflammation scores. And so can you now hold your phone up and get some, not all, but can you start to get some of these markers based on how it's analyzing you? And you already know from a technology perspective, you're like, I can probably figure out how that, I can understand how that works.
Coupled with wearables, right?
Coupled with wearables, yeah. So I think the future is Leo's going to wake up. It's going to say, welcome to Monday, Leo. Yesterday you didn't eat too well. Not a problem. We're going to get you fixed up this week. We're going to go low carb. Here's some of the foods that we're going to be eating this week. By the way, your recovery score was this. We need to make sure that you stay on track with your sleep this week to get back on track. And I think you're going to have this, I always call it like the Jetsons, right? That's what I think about. It's like I'm aging myself right now with the Jetsons. But like you go through and like the shower showers you. It's like this whole thing that just happens. That's going to happen in health. And it's going to tell you what to eat, what your exercise should be. You might think you're going to do strength training. It might tell you to do a HIIT class. And here's why you need to do a HIIT class. So, or hey, you know what we need to do is we need to work you out a little bit early. You've been working out late at night. It's affecting your sleep. I think that that's the level of personalization you're going to see in the future and not too far from it. And we're already starting to think about that. For example, we're giving you a weekly podcast on your body right now. So you go, it's Monday morning. Hey, Leo, here's Monday morning. Here's how you did last week. So we're verbalizing it to you. By the way, serving it to you in the tone and voice that you like off the podcast you already listened to. Now you can consume it. So you're learning about yourself. Imagine that every day, but in real time, right? We're doing a week span of looking back at the week and giving you insights. But imagine as you wake up, you knowing exactly what has to happen. That's really where we're going.
Well, Tyler, you revolutionize one industry. I'm ecstatic to see what you do in the health one, because it's one that I've always been curious about. And as the name of the company you founded, like, I think one of the gifts of living long is actually living a healthy life, right? When I see folks in their 80s who, can't go to the bathroom by themselves, walker assistants versus other ones that can outrun both of us. I think that's the goal.
Yeah, especially when I have a different perspective of it now that I have kids, right? And I think that's the bigger thing is you start to think differently, where how can I actually be running and I don't want them taking care of me. I never thought about that till you have kids. Like, yeah, I get why my mom and dad said that to me. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. And we'll look forward to seeing what you do next.
Yeah, thanks so much.